What's up, future Shredlords? Welcome back. I just didn't want to end the video there with the cool little tune. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the principles involved there. And the first and foremost one is composition is a skill like anything. Practicing technical requirements like scales and arpeggios and, intervals and all that good stuff, chords, and all of the music theory, sort of breaking down the fretboard. That's one sort of mode of thinking when you're practicing. And then there's another mode of thinking, which is your compositional skills, which is what I was exercising here. And sort of all of the other things tangentially attached to that as well. Like, notice the solo, I didn't go crazy. I tried to really develop a melody, and that was improvised too. So the thing is to know how to hold back enough and keep it real enough so that you can really engage the audience, like guys like Gilmour and Beck and so many other great guitar players do. It's just so overlooked in favor of like the crazy chops. The crazy chops only make sense when there's something in between for you to sort of like mellow it out. So that's an important skill that needs to be practiced, and it's very difficult to do that in a practice situation, of course. And then just the songwriting skills there. I wrote it in the key of C, and I'm doing all the regular sort of like suspects, if you will, the usual suspects, I should say. I'm borrowing chords from other keys like B flat major and A flat major in the sequence with the piano and whatnot in the key of C major. So these things come into play when you're sort of like trying to figure out how to write music. And in this case, I was surfing around on social media and I saw this meme that said the world you knew doesn't exist anymore. And I was just like, that's kind of true. It's very true. And I guess it's true about every generation and stuff, but it just, there comes a point in time where you hit that realization. You're just like, yeah. And so it hit me so profoundly when I was sort of reading this meme and looking at it, that I just was like, the next day, of course, instead of doing the guitar video or tutorial, we're making music instead. And that's an important lesson right there. You have to express your creativity. You have to sort of go out on a limb and see how you're doing. And maybe it won't come out sounding as polished as that. I've been working on it for a very, very long time to get it to sound like that. So, you got to sort of take everything with a grain of salt and just temper your expectations with how much work you're actually able to put into it. And if you're really, really serious, you'll get good. And if you're not, and you don't have as much time, well, you'll get pretty good, and just keep working towards it. And that's all you can do. So that's really the long and short of it. I don't want to go on for like another 20 minutes here. Instead, I just wanted to say that, there's skills involved with making music and playing music and all that good stuff that have nothing to do with just practicing on the guitar and whatnot, or playing along to other people's music and whatnot. You have to sit down and make your own music. And even if that entails just making and using some simple chords and then expanding out, be like, well, what happens if I move this out? Do I make this C chord here, this bar chord, it's a C chord. How do the cage chords work out? And that sort of starts opening doors to basically do what I was doing there. But it's no more complicated than that, essentially. And that's just it. Again, journey of 1,000 steps begins with just one. So just start by messing around with one thing and trying to then steadily build upon that idea over time, where you're starting to write full pieces of music. For a couple minutes, took me a couple hours to do that. So, you know what I mean? It's definitely doable, and it can be obviously incredibly rewarding. So keep that in mind. Practicing music and playing music and composing music are all different sort of mindsets, and therefore you have to put on different hats to be able to really effectively manage your education, because that's what this is. You just keep practicing it to keep getting better and better and better so that your music translates that much better and stronger with the audience. But also you can create actual sort of like innovative music where you're not necessarily stuck to the same four chords. You see what I'm saying? So all of the things, again, converging. You have the technical elements when you need them to enhance the last little bit, like a John Petrucci flurry, but much more simplistic, right? Obviously, just fit the music. and then developing melodies instead of playing licks or little riffs or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Trying to really think about what it is you're saying on the instrument and building it up. Obviously, you see the composition there. I start off very simply, then I enhance it, adding more chords to the sequence, if you will, developing it more, right? And of course, take it right into the big climax with the bass and drums, which is, you know, standard fare for the 80s stuff. And of course, I rip off the 80s as far as the bass guitar is concerned. Because again, I was just feeling it there. I grew up in the 80s, so of course I'm going to be influenced by that kind of stuff all the time. But I've always loved that sort of contrast where it's really simple and spacious with respect to the drums, and the bass is just kind of thumping away and feeding into it. So again, using your sort of musical influences to tie it all together at the end of the day is going to be something that can be absolutely crucial in developing who you are as a musician. So all of these things nobody talks about. They're like practice this skill or do this arpeggio sequence and all that stuff, and they're all good. Keep doing that. But also on the list is take one day a month where you just sort of sit down and hack around with coming up with little parts of a song for yourself, and then just keep expanding on that idea. Maybe one day you'll be making recordings of them too. And I'm sure you'll be enjoying that a lot until you're like, oh my God, this gear is expensive. And then it's like, oh, this sucks. Anyways, no, I'm kidding. Okay, just the joy of making music, the making of your own music is a reward in and of itself. Thanks for hanging out with me. You know, I love you on a Sunday. We'll see you in the next one.